I had this wonderful conversation with someone. We were at an event that was actually sponsored by the foundation. The point I made to this person who I had worked with in a traceability company was that traceability is actually worthless. And this person was shocked, obviously, because their business model revolved around traceability. Traceability is a lot of what you've talked about in the RODA. And the argument I made is that once you have enough traceability, getting more traceability is actually not worth more money. You don't make more by getting another 2 inches of granularity. On a satellite image, maybe getting a little bit better resolution is worth more, but on traceability it is not. And why am I talking about this is because the next panel is going to be about removing some of the social and environmental factors that make things bad in this world. And I'd like you to kind of take that mindset into it, in that a lot of times we look at these things as something in addition to industry, but I think that negative social and environmental factors are a production defect. Enjoy your panel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this panel about Cardano and the way that it can accelerate social good. Now, for many of you, Cardano was really interesting from the onset, where beyond being a neutral technology, it was actually built out with a purpose. The idea was to push power to the edges. And that took a variety of different turns. And what we'll see here today with 2 experts from the Cardano ecosystem as well as an expert from outside is really seeing both sides of the story and trying to understand a little bit more about how blockchain, and specifically Cardano, could contribute to a better world. In this case, in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals. So without further ado, I'd like to ask our panelists to briefly introduce themselves, and then we'll get started in the conversation.
Sure, thank you. So my name is Sarah. I'm the founder of Socius, but also I'm contributing as a Constitutional Committee member in the Interim Constitutional Committee. And also I'm a Cardano ambassador. And so what do we do at Socius is we are a decentralized talent marketplace on Cardano, built on trust. So we bring trust back to job matching. So we use identity wallets and self-serving identity solutions to issue work certificates, educational certificates as verifiable credentials to have more secure transactions between hiring companies and talent. And also the focus of Socius is sourcing talent for impact startups and sustainability departments of big corporations. So their contributions will be recorded on-chain on Cardano so that people can recognized and rewarded for their contribution to the world. So that's what we do at Socius. Thank you.
My name is Peter Van Garter. Thank you for attending, everybody, and having a listen to this really exciting discussion. My background is I am trained as an archivist, and I gained expertise in the digital archiving field, and then I subsequently created a free and open source software platform called Archivematica. That's now the most widely deployed open source software in the digital archiving space. I consulted with governments and extra-governmental organizations like the United Nations and the World Bank on how to manage their electronic records and preserve their authenticity. And so when blockchain came around, I was very interested in the discussion around how blockchains are a very high-powered tool to preserve authenticity, and I became more and more interested in how I could leverage that technology to solve some of the gaps we had in the digital record-keeping field. So that's how I landed upon founding and co-founding this project called Landano. I now work full-time in the Cardano space on that project. I'm also the CEO of another Cardano project called OrcFax, which is an oracle, similar to Chainlink. The Landano application, what's revolutionary about it is that we are not the first project to try to attempt to manage property rights on the blockchain. Other projects have claimed to do it, but they assume that the blockchain itself is a record-keeping system. What we've done instead is we applied my expertise and my co-founder's expertise to create an internationally standards-compliant record-keeping system for land rights management and made it extra secure and authentic by creating Cardano NFT trust anchors for those records. So the value in the system is not that we are using the blockchain, it's that we've added the blockchain to make an even better solution for jurisdictions where people are struggling with claiming rights to their land. A little known fact is that there's over 5 billion people worldwide right now that have rights to land but don't have the documents to prove it. And 1 billion of those people, mostly in the global south, go to sleep every night concerned that somebody's going to show up the next day and steal their property, steal their home, steal their farm, steal their barn. They do not have secure property rights. And when you don't have secure property rights, you can't take the next step up in the financial ladder. You can't go to the bank and say, I own this property, or I have these rights, I have these mining rights, or these other kind of rights you might have with property records, and then say, can you please give me a business loan? Can you please give me a mortgage? I'd like to claim the carbon credits for all the carbon credits that are being accumulated on my property. And so that's a huge missing link. It turns out that's the missing link of why you could argue capitalism has worked in the global north and not the global south. Some people would argue that. And that's essentially the thesis that we're pursuing. And so with my team, we have started pilot projects on the ground in Ghana and Mozambique to help local tribal leaders and family clan leaders claim their constitutional rights to do land allocation and help them create better actual digital record-keeping systems for managing those rights and those titles. Where currently there's a vacuum. The existing centralized government systems are not accessible to the people that are needed the most on the ground, these 5 billion people that we're talking about. The systems that are currently in place are too centralized, they're too mismanaged, in some cases fraudulently so, and in some cases it's just simply a matter of missing information. So we as a project are going in and filling this legal vacuum where our records are legally compatible with the existing government systems, and we're empowering local communities to claim their property rights and take the next step up in the financial ladder.
Hello, my name is Noha Mokni. I'm an impact serial entrepreneur and expert with the United Nations in sustainable innovation. So founder of MyCans as an entrepreneur. And I'm also Chief Strategy Officer at 3WM Cleantech Group. So first I will talk about MyCans. What is it? It's a digital accelerator for sustainable innovators. We support innovators to help them develop their business as profitable, innovative and sustainable solutions to build a better world, to build the city of tomorrow, the sustainable city, because I'm also an expert in sustainable smart cities and tokenized real estate. And on the other hand, with 3WM as a Chief Strategy Officer, 3WM is a Swiss group specialized in clean tech, so in environmental technologies specialized in water, waste and mobility. So we have, we will talk later about how we can transform something that nobody wants, like plastic waste, into something that everybody needs, like drinking water, with our token and our clean tech. So I'll talk about it.
Thanks to all our panelists for the introductions. And I just realized I just rushed on stage and didn't even say hello. So hi, my name is Alex Marza. I'm the sustainability lead at the Cardano Foundation. And it's a great honor and privilege to be moderating this panel today. At the CF, we look at the intersection of blockchain and sustainability in two lenses. One is sustainability through blockchain, so blockchain for good, which is essentially what we'll be mostly discussing today. And on the other hand, the sustainability of a blockchain. Now what I mean by that is, does the infrastructure, the social, the technical systems that ensure that Cardano as a layer one can persist and exist in terms of 10 months, 12 months, a year, 5 years, a decade? How do we do this? And part of this actually is around the thinking of sustainable systems that get developed through projects that our panelists today have been developing. Now, you've introduced a little bit about your projects. When you think about Socius, Landano, and the two organizations that you represent, Nuha, what do you see as most beneficial from the blockchain angle in terms of what they bring? And the reverse of that is, what could you do without blockchain in your business and still have a positive impact in the world?
Yeah. So in my opinion, blockchain is just a tool. Blockchain, AI, technology is just a tool. So if you can solve social cause social problems, or if you want to contribute to social causes, without using technology, sometimes you can do that. Like marriage equality, probably technology solution is not the best solution, but legal solutions and changing the law, etc. But I believe that in the impact sector, what we need is trust. Whether you want donors to trust you that $1 you're donating, 90% goes to the people in need instead of 90% going to the operations. You need trust to hire talent that your organization is making an impact. And that we can do that through blockchain. Blockchain is it's about trust. When you read Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin white paper, you know, like there are hundreds of times that the word trust is mentioned. So blockchain, as its origin, came out of how to bring transaction, how to make people trust each other. And that is one of the most important challenges that impact sector is facing in terms of getting resources, whether it's talent, whether it's funding, it's about trust. So for us, Socius is using self-sovereign identity system to bring trust back to the impact sector. So we want to make sure that the companies you're donating to, companies that you're applying to work for them, they are impactful. And also that the people who are applying to these jobs, they claim that they volunteered for these projects, they donated, they also can prove that they're impactful, they have impactful mindset. So this is what we're doing, and it has brought us a lot of good benefits. We've been fortunate to have impact investors, and they want to have proof that we are an impactful company. And many of our talent came because of our purpose and because of our mission. And that we can prove that on chain as well. And that is the best part of blockchain.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with that. Blockchain is about trust, and I think that's what is so fascinating about it. I think if you look behind any social relationship, it's all based on trust. And I think the top of the tip of the iceberg is trust in regulatory environments, in legal environments, in financial environments, and those are the kinds of things we're talking about now. And you know, blockchains basically disintermediate trust. They've created an algorithmic incentive to disintermediate trust and not rely on a third party. You know, if this is not your first blockchain conference, you would have heard this many times before, but I still think it's a fundamental truth. And certainly in our project, that is what we're looking to add, because as I described earlier, there is a lot of mistrust or misplaced trust in systems that aren't functioning properly or aren't reachable to the most of the majority of people that it should be serving. And so, yeah, certainly things like decentralized identifier technology is of key interest to us in the Landano project. Yes, I am a village chief, or I'm a representative of the village chief, or I'm a certified land surveyor, and yes, I have grazing rights to this property, and yes, this property does exist here. Those are all basic trust mechanisms that need to be, that we can now represent in a more trustworthy way by leveraging this distributed trust technology. And as far as sustainability is concerned, I think in the early days of blockchain, and I think similar problem around just the internet in general, this idea that, oh, if I put something on the internet, if I put something on a blockchain, it'll be there permanently. That's not the case. Blockchains can disappear, blockchains can fail, and that's why we're building on Cardano, because we believe it's the most sustainable of all the L1 blockchains out there. The fact that we have as many stake pool operators as we do, and we have a proof of stake system, I believe as an archivist, choosing the right technology stack for building the solution is the most sustainable in the long term to outlast all the other, other than maybe Bitcoin, given that it's the whale, and it's more about stored value than anything else. And so, yeah, there's land records obviously are permanent archival records. Those records need to be around and accessible, usable, trustworthy in perpetuity. And as an archivist, as a digital archivist, I've been trained and educated to think in terms of decades, in terms of hundreds of years. So how do we bring this information forward? Well, we check off a long list of things that makes information accessible and usable over the long term. And one of them has to be financial incentive to keep those records stored. So and certainly, so blockchain provides that. The stake pool operators are financially incentivized to keep their servers running and keep that data online. And that's, to me, is a really key, had been a really key missing piece in the Web 2 world where I came from, and that's why I'm in the Web 3 space. I think another interesting way to think about sustainability is that, as we all know, the Cardano blockchain only has a very limited amount of kilobytes per transaction, per block, so you're not really putting documents on the Cardano blockchain, you're putting hashes of documents on the blockchain, and those hashes need to resolve out to a proper record-keeping system. And so many projects have failed to do that properly, have failed to do that with an archival mindset, to think about how those systems will survive over decades. And so one of the other pieces of the puzzle that we have in place is that for all the land right transactions that we're recording on the Landana platform, all the documents and records that are generated are being packaged in archival packaging format, the same standards that I've applied over 15 years in the archival space. We're creating archival bundles for those and making them part of a larger record-keeping system. And those are going on the Arweave decentralized storage networks. If you haven't heard of Arweave, it's similar to IPFS, except that it has an incentivization layer built in up front. It has an endowment model, is that you pay once to store some megabytes or gigabytes, and then its algorithm and its mining incentivization is designed in such a way that you never have to pay again. If you put data on IPFS, somebody, whether you use Filecoin contracts or some other kind of bonding mechanism, at some point a human being has to wake up and pay the bills. And what we're doing is trying to create a completely decentralized autonomous system that can run, obviously as a Landana we want to be around in perpetuity as well and provide the service to the people of the world. But if we should happen to disappear, we have full-fledged records that are accessible on both Cardano and Arweave in a completely open, public, permissionless system. And that is 100% thinking forward about sustainability, and that's why we're building on Cardano.
Well,
just before you jump into this, I'm curious from your perspective as somebody that also pushes innovation ecosystems further, how do you see blockchain being adopted on top of the actual value that it brings to some of the businesses that you're involved in?
Well, so in terms of adoption, right?
Correct.
When we support sustainable innovators, we always tell them that blockchain is not like a goal in itself. It's a tool, it's a mean. And once we will be able to make blockchain connected to our useful daily life, like internet and social media or social network came and they disrupted our life, and today we cannot live without our mobile, we cannot live without all this internet. It really changed our daily life at every single detail. Once blockchain will not be technical anymore, will be really user-centered, and will be really for me, I think Cardano should focus on UX, user experience and user interface before even the technology. So people, they can really adopt it in a seamless way and connect it to the needs of their life every day. So, and this is how we are working now with 3WM. It's really connected to real solution for real problem. We talk about water scarcity, we talk about waste management, energy, and I will not talk about, I could talk about financial inclusion, banking facility, or even securing fragile, democracies by giving a strong voting system, for example. This could be, like the kind of area where we really need blockchain for that. Again, the trust thing, and the giving accessibility to everyone. But I'll talk about what UNESCO has predicted. UNESCO has said that in the next 5 years, 700 million of people will have no access to water anymore. We are not talking about voting or even banking, we are talking about life, water, okay? And 2 billion will have only limited access to water. So we are all concerned. And the good news is that there is solutions. For example, 3WM has a technology to transform any polluted water, even seawater, into drinking water through a car. So we are specialized in mobility. We can go to non-accessible area, and so up to 100,000 liters per day. Okay. On the other hand, we have another technology transforming plastic waste to energy, to oil. Then we have the food waste to compost in 24 hours instead of a whole year. Then we have another technology producing clean water from the air, from humidity. And all this ecosystem of clean technology that, again, tokenize real solution to real problems, okay? Through our token, which I have it here, the 3WM, and the good news, it will be launched in December 2024, okay? Thank you, you will join us, I'm sure. You give me, I will give you a very simple transaction, and this is how you can see people, they will adopt, the mainstream will adopt blockchain and crypto because it will make sense to them. So if you give me 1 kilo of plastic waste, okay, I will give you this token. For me, it's not waste anymore, it's a resource because I have the technology, okay? So you take this, okay, this token.
Here's all my waste.
Yes, thank you. Now, with this token, okay, I can give you 1 liter of drinking water. So that's how we move from plastic waste, something that nobody wants, okay, to something that everybody needs, drinking water. But you have also access to education, to energy, to other solutions from this virtuous circular ecosystem of clean technology. And we develop a community of global citizens for every action positive for the planet. So we gamify the process of transitioning to a better world. And this is, I think, the bridge, the way of bridging between all the stakeholders, because so far everybody's, throwing the ball to the other one, like, oh, the government are not doing their job, but the government will say, oh, it's the multinational. The multinational will say it's the consumers. We are just, answering the needs of the market, and that's it. And, like, at the end of the day, I mean, we have only one planet, but with this token, everybody will play a role, we will gamify, we will reward, and it's a win-win situation.
Thanks for that. And I think, listening to you all speak, I hear a lot about circular economy. I hear a lot about grassroots and bottom-up and empowerment. And beyond trust, often you hear about decentralization in blockchain, right? And mostly decentralization refers to, or is understood as something technical. Is my network decentralized? Do I have a lot of different validators? Do I have a lot of different node clients, et cetera, but the way I see it, when you apply decentralization to the human form, in terms of blockchain, you have these, virtuous ecosystems where from the bottom up you can build something beautiful, and you can be financially incentivized wherever you are to pick up a shovel and try to solve a problem. And with this, I wanted to go into the direction of Project Catalyst, which Sarah, Peter, you've both used to grow your businesses. Now, for those of you that don't know, Project Catalyst is Cardano's decentralized innovation grant fund. Since 2021, I hope I'm not mistaken about the year, it's dispersed close to $100 million of grant funding to the Cardano ecosystem on a variety of different topics, whether this is about growing the ecosystem through a number of marketing or events, whether it is about developer tooling and funding that, or it's about creating concepts and seed funding these concepts or allowing these to become products. Project Catalyst has seen close to 2,000 projects funded of very diverse sizes. It's funded things like DEXs or some of the projects that we have here on stage. So, starting with you, Peter, what has your experience been with Project Catalyst as a startup founder? And, what do you see the value of a decentralized community participating in the success and the initial bootstrap of your business?
Yeah, thank God for Project Catalyst. It's we're not the only project that launched and has been able to keep going thanks to generous grants from that treasury. Landano wouldn't exist without Project Catalyst. So I mentioned earlier that I also started another project called OrgFax, and that received one round of funding, and the next round of funding, I participated in the kind of the community collaboration on ideas, and I ran into my co-founder Doris van der Kroft from the Netherlands. We just started a casual conversation about how property rights are broken. He had spent a lot of time in sub-Saharan Africa. His partner is from there. So he'd experienced firsthand the tragedy of people not being able to claim and verify their land rights. And me as a record keeper have obviously very interested in this domain space, like where there's such a major impact I can have as an archivist that knows how to manage collections of records. Land right records are the most impactful, like I described earlier, due to this thesis that if you can claim your property rights, you can claim all kinds of new other financial opportunities. So this is the Project Catalyst way. You meet people and you collaborate. Next thing you know, you're running a project together. And next thing you know, we brought on 2 other co-founders. My other co-founder Aaron's in the audience here as well. And then next thing you know, we're an international company. We're a Delaware C corporation now, and really going for this push to introduce decentralized record keeping to first to the global south, but globally all around the world at some point is what we're interested in. Yeah, decentralization is such a powerful concept. I consider myself a decentralization believer and advocate. I believe that many of the ills in the world, the social ills, the political troubles that we see are due to centralized power. This pyramid structure that allows like narcissists and sociopaths to take control of our social systems, of our political systems, our financial systems. And that's one of the main key reasons I'm actually involved in blockchain, because I believe that decentralization with this powerful incentivized truth network called blockchain is the best chance we have as humanity to fight back against this broken system. Most people wake up in the morning and figure the world is just broken, that's the way it's got to be. I think most people that entered the Cardano space and came through Project Catalyst, many of us are dreamers and believers, and I think Cardano itself is a unique blockchain. Like many others here, like I was inspired by some of the early talks that Charles did, like banking the unbanked is one of those phrases that really struck home for me. And I figured out this is a way that I can use my talents and my experience and professional experience to actually make an impact in the world. And so I believe fundamentally in this idea of decentralization and how it should work all the way from top to bottom. We're talking about political governance, we're talking about exciting things happening in Argentina now using the Cardano blockchain. All the way down to Project Catalyst itself, which is also, the experiment, as it's been called from day one, and as slowly evolved into this decentralized governance mechanism, which is growing and maturing along with the Cardano space and along with builders and founding projects like Landano. I think it's I think very much that. The progression that we've been seeing in Catalyst is almost like a mirror image of what we want to see happen in Cardano as a whole. I think Catalyst is kind of quite often at the bleeding edge of decentralized governance, and I want to be part of that. And I'm really, sometimes it means a little bit more work and a little bit more communication, but I think it's all for the benefit of this movement that I consider a movement. I consider decentralization a movement, and I consider myself right in the midst of it and on the best network that's best position for success and helping to drive the ball forward.
Awesome. Sarah, actually coming to you because your project also got seed funded from Catalyst. I'd like to hear a little bit about your experience, but also the fact that you started this in Japan, right? In the Cardano community, Cardano's kicked off in Japan, and there's a lot of differences in language and views of doing things. What is your experience in terms of that? Because the thing is, Cardano is a global blockchain, but the reality is not everyone has English as their first language. So how did you kind of bridge that, and how is Catalyst useful for Socius?
Yeah, thank you for that. So, similar to Landano and Peter, thanks to Catalyst, Socius is where we are today, really thanks to the community of Cardano and Project Catalyst community. So I believe that the uniqueness of Catalyst comes from its decision-making process. So usually in the grant funding or like VC funding, there are a small number of people deciding where the money goes. In Catalyst, it's the opposite. It's the community, and the more people coming into the community, the decision will be decentralized. And because of this decision-making process, it encourages communication with others. So in VC funding or like very small grant funding, traditional grant funding model, the communication is between people, project trying to get funding, and the decision makers. But because the decision makers are Cardano community, millions of people participate in this. So there will be lots of communication. You need a lot of collaboration. And socials, we chose Cardano. What Peter mentioned is very reflective of the greater Cardano community. Many people came to Cardano after watching Charles Hoskinson's TED Talk. So 10 years ago, Charles talked about banking the unbanked and using blockchain technology for social and environmental causes. And that resonated with me, and that brought me to the Cardano community. And there are many people who are in the community because of that initial vision. And there are many town halls, communities for climate, for education, for health, etc., that are very socially conscious and they're impact focused. So our client base is basically these socially conscious, impact-focused companies and projects. So not just the funding part, but the community engagement and partnerships. Thanks to Catalyst, sometimes we don't get funded. Not all our projects got funded, but every single time we participate in Project Catalyst, we forge new partnerships, whether they're vendors, whether they're our clients, some of them became our team members. So this is really a catalytic fund, so it becomes a catalyst for change and impact. So we've been really lucky to participate in this, not just for funding, but also the community part. And I think many people, even though they don't get funded, they stay in the Project Catalyst community because of that community aspect. And in terms of Japan, so Japan is a unique situation, as Alex mentioned. It has a huge community, and I believe that it's the biggest community in terms of the number of people and the number of like ADA holdings in Japan is huge. So we've been lucky to collaborate with different projects in Japan, and there are many impact-oriented projects that are having huge impact on the local people on the ground. But one thing that we want to change in the future is the language barrier, and these people don't speak English, right? And because of that language barrier, people don't know. People outside of Japan don't know what's going on in Japan, and it's vice versa. So people in Japan don't know what's going on outside of Japan. So basically, there is no much communication and collaboration between Japanese projects and other projects outside of Japan. So as Socius and as a Cardano ambassador, the Constitutional Committee member, my goal is to bridge that gap. So we've focused on bringing communities together. We just had a huge event in Japan, but bringing international people. Some of them are here today, came from the US, came from Europe to participate in this event. Charles Hoskinson joined, Ken Kodama joined, Cardano Foundation also sponsored. So this is beginning to change. So we are now actually having many partnerships between Japanese projects and foreign projects. And I believe that that will have a huge impact because the original Cardano community members since 2017, 2018 are in Japan. And now these OGs are collaborating with newcomers in different parts of the world.
Thanks for that, Sarah. And like you heard it, through Project Catalyst, Peter and Sarah and their teams were able to pick up a shovel and start moving some soil. Now, this soil is on a truck, and the truck needs fuel. Nuha, you have experience trying to accelerate and coaching clients to accelerate sustainable innovation. Listening to what they're saying, and some of their businesses are starting to scale, and that's what they're looking at, the next step. What are some trends that you've picked up with some of the clients that you've had in the past that could be applicable to the conversation that we're having in some of the startups in Cardano?
Yeah, definitely. What I'm hearing is really interesting and inspiring because you talk about a grant funding that has a crowdfunding approach. Since we are not centralizing the decision maker in just like a jury, like a committee of decision makers. Should we give the fund to this startup or not? You know, here it's a community of millions of people, and as an expert in crowdfunding, I know the power of the crowds. You know, so this gives a market validation to the startups, because like a big number of people will validate this startup. Okay, we should go for funding. There will be people that believe in that project. There will be people that they can even become ambassador, early adopters, and this is the best start for any startup, to start with the crowd, with the community, supporters, and this is really the trend now, okay? So this crowdfunding approach, I think it's really powerful, and it's really on the edge, and this is one main point that I can see. The other thing is, I think Cardano should also support the countries, emerging countries, Africa, BRICS, that have political crises, that have scarcity for water. Again, I insist in the real world problem, and this ecosystem of startups are really the strength of Cardano ecosystem, like the project catalyst. We can focus on key areas, urgent areas, where we can really build a community of change makers. Today we have a list of crises. We have all experienced sanitary crisis, political crisis, climate crisis, and everything, but at the end of the day, there is only one crisis. One crisis is leadership. We have really a problem of leadership and vision today. So I think the new leadership is the new global decision makers that are you and me, okay? The innovators, the sustainable innovators, the startuppers, and Cardano have a massive role and impact in putting all these people together, giving them the grants, the means, the ecosystem, the technology to empower them in this direction.
Thanks for that. We've got about 3 minutes left. I'm really curious, in a very brief way. This is not a wrap up. In a very brief way, what are the main challenges that you foresee for your own individual businesses in the next 5 years, with regards to blockchain adoption or just general business strategy? Sarah or Peter, if you want to kick us off, and then...
Sure. Well, I mean, the obvious one is funding. We need fuel in the truck, as you mentioned, and at some point, projects need to graduate from Project Catalyst and stand on their own 2 feet, and that's kind of the stage we're at now, so that's our most immediate challenge. From a technical point of view, in our project in particular, obviously we're trying to establish ourselves in this legal vacuum, so getting full recognition from juridical systems is another stepping stone in our process. But I think first and foremost, it's usability and understanding our market, our target market. A large number of people are literate, let alone having connection to an internet, let alone knowing how to operate, let's say, a crypto wallet, for example. So I think there's still huge hurdles to cross with getting this solution to the people that need it most. And that's a challenge we take on gladly. And again, we're not the only project. We're working on this together collaboratively. And especially that's why we like being in the Cardano ecosystem, because we're, like you pointed out, we're in an ecosystem of dreamers and believers and people that want to work together on these types of solutions. But those are our most critical challenges. You said quickly, I think decentralized identifiers is a solution to that. By making that connection and integrating those into our platforms is the other big kind of technical challenge I see as the future. Okay.
Nuha, how about you? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm working on a new model of, city, the future that we desire, not the future that scares us, like in the movies, So bringing change makers together, empowering them with clean tech, and building the city of tomorrow. And of course, we need funders, we need innovators, we need the tech, the ecosystem, and everything put together to make, like, to co-create the future that we desire.
Yeah. So we have mainly two challenges, and the first one applies to all Cardano projects, but especially impact projects. So we are an impact startup, and impact funding or impact VCs is only small percentage of all the VCs. And crypto VCs is also a small percentage of all VCs. And impact crypto is also, it's a very niche part of all the entire VC ecosystem. So we are targeting very small niche segment of the VC market, and that creates an enormous challenge in raising capital from VCs. So there may be other alternative methods of fundraising, but this is the challenge that impact projects are facing in the Cardano ecosystem. The second is that we are using self-sovereign identity, and that is a bleeding edge new technology, and we don't have any open source repository that we can learn from. So like we are actually testing and learning by breaking things and by actually getting feedback from our users. So that is going to be very challenging to work with new technology. It's always about learning, and in terms of user experience, we need to improve it, and we need to educate people because it's a completely new technology. So these two are big challenges that we're facing now.
Thank you, everybody. And this was actually a wrap-up. And I'd like to thank our panelists for this fantastic conversation, and of course, our audience for listening in. We'll be popping out really soon if you have a couple of questions. So again, thank you so much, and see you soon. Thank you.